Welcome to the Go Big Redcast, the Husker fan sports show.
Excited to get ready to play Michigan, play a Big Ten team at home. Excellent team, number 2 team in the country for a reason. So great opportunity for us, experience for us.
Welcome to the Go Big Redcast. I'm your host, David Gaspers, and I'm with Honky. Honky, new to the podcasting business.
I was looking at the wrong screen there. Okay. Huge opportunity this weekend, fellas, and can't wait to kick this game off against the Wolverines.
Well done, Honky.
Thank you. I was looking at the wrong one. Yep.
Let's see if Boomer's done this before. Boomer.
Yeah, I'd just like to welcome all of our loyal listeners to the Family podcast, guaranteed to still somehow be more offensive than the Iowa Hawkeyes.
Bada bing. I don't know. Can we produce 76 yards of offense on the show, Rob?
I think we can absolutely. And also, I'm looking forward to Saturday night in the event that Nebraska somehow pulls off a win against Michigan. I will be remaking that famous Kool-Aid video of the guy that I always post on Twitter. The guy in the shower pouring Kool-Aid all over himself. I will be bringing my Kool-Aid mug. I'll be bringing some body paint, and I will remake that video if Nebraska beats Michigan. So,
do you have enough Kool-Aid mix?
Oh, I'll just stop off in Hastings on the way out.
There should be a Kool-Aid. Is there a Kool-Aid museum in Hastings? Honky?
There is.
Yeah, inside the Hastings Museum in the basement, they do.
Oh, excellent. All right. Well, I'm going to have to stop by next time, obviously. All right, guys. Well, we're talking about another win. We'll get to Michigan, yes. But we'll continue to savor a victory. Honky's on his third show of the week already. He did the what do you Honky's Huddle is what we now call the Sunday morning show. Is that right? Maybe
that could be it. Yeah, the day after Honky's Huddle, 5 takeaways. I don't know, one of those shows.
Yeah,
it was one good. Of those names. Yeah, thank you.
It was, I put it on the big screen, watched it with the family. Did not have my dogs barking, so it was okay. Mm-hmm. I understand that there's some people that have issues with our bell, but my dog was fine with it. And then you and Mac did another great show last night. Want to promote our own shows because now we do so many of them.
Well, absolutely, and we promoted this show on that one. Yeah, that was embracing the option, and it was just the idea that some of the things we'll talk about tonight with the offense is that we've become kind of an option team here the last couple of weeks, and this might be the calling card for this team. And so, but if you're going to do the option, you got to embrace it. You can't just dabble in it. You gotta go all in if this is what we're going to be. So hopefully that's what we see.
Hey, can I just mention real quick, the only person watching the show or at least commenting on the show so far is a Michigan fan. So welcome, friend from Ann Arbor, and thank you for listening to the show tonight. That's great.
Yeah, Timothy Bullock. All right, we'll
We've got a global Wolverines.
Especially in Russia, but I don't think it's exactly the content they think it is when they see Go Big Redcast.
Yeah, that's true.
That's right.
Well, not just Michigan fans, but anyone, if you like this kind of comment, we just want to throw it out there now. Hit the thumbs up there, subscribe, leave a comment below. We want to hear feedback from everyone. So make it interactive, and we want to hear from you. So Redcasters, thanks for watching. And also, you'll notice all the new graphics here up along the top. We've got the Alumni Hall up there, Herd at Sports, and then Smack and Smooch, the makers of all of our good Redcast gear. And you can see the QR code. Click on that anytime you want as you're watching this, and you can go to the Redcast store and buy some of that stuff and wear it to games.
Yeah, absolutely. Please promote us. We're shameless, really. I mean, Honky hasn't worn anything except the Go Big Redcast t-shirt in like weeks, at least, I would imagine.
That's all I own now.
It's your entire wardrobe. I'm waiting for the Go Big Redcast dress swim trunks to come out. I'm gonna get those for you for Christmas. All right, well, we'll have a good show. Maybe we'll recap a little bit of what you and Mac talked about. I think you did a great job breaking down that option, and we talked a little bit about the pros and cons of becoming an option team, at least for 1 year. Talk about our great defense, number 1 rush defense in the country right now, and break down the Wolverines a little bit, and we'll do a Redcast as well, right? So good show. Honky, I did want to mention, I was talking to an architect here visiting Denver. His name is Mark Bacon. He works for BVH Architecture. I was just talking about Denver planning with the guy. That's what I do. And he does some work here. And he mentioned that he worked, BVH worked on the Go Big project and has been working with Populous, that whole sprawling complex. It was pretty interesting conversation. And also found out he's doing a lot of work in Columbus. They did like the really cool new Columbus Community Center, which has going to have a children's museum in it, I think. So Columbus on the up and coming, check it out.
Yeah.
And most interesting, I thought for you, Honky, and Boomer actually maybe, but they're doing some renovations to the Pawnee Park football field, improving the stadium. I was like, well, that's Honky and Scotus's old stomping ground there. I'm sure it's going to be just as elaborate as the upgrade to Memorial, right?
Yeah, is this like a Go Big, light kind of project? I mean, what are they doing there at Pawnee?
I think they're mainly just making it more ADA accessible and maybe improving some basic amenities. But good for Columbus. And I don't want to lose the aura and the feeling though of is it called Memorial Field there?
Yeah, it's Memorial Stadium, Pawnee Park Field.
Yeah. All right. Yeah.
What did he say about the Go Big? I'm curious. Did he say anything about the Go Big project of any note?
Yeah, I mean they worked on it extensively. They took different tours to other complexes and went to Las Vegas actually to. They visited a like MMA training facility for ideas, just like really interesting stuff that kind of inspired some of the stuff. They also. He talked about how they had to be really secret about a lot of this stuff because when this arms race of college football, as soon as you put something out there on social media and they understand that Nebraska is doing it, now suddenly anybody, Alabama is the Ohio States of the world, is like, oh, well, that looks a little bit better than ours. We better already start upgrading, right? So they kept a lot of things close to the vest and still are, I think, to kind of keep that competitive edge as long as possible. Because when you invest in a building of millions and millions of dollars like that, you want to take advantage of that competitive edge. That was really interesting.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that might actually lead us into tweets of the week, Dave, the very first one. And the first one here, this came about a week or so back. It was a college football report. And I don't know if you guys saw this. It was the top 50 donors according to this one report here, and it was since 2005. And I know it's very small text here, but Nebraska's number 42 on it, way down, on this list here with like 236 million. This is how much it's apparently that it's brought in compared to all these other schools. And so there became this narrative, especially on social media. It started to spread right away that, oh my gosh, Nebraska, how we're that far down. We're down by like the Oregon states and so on. And I'm looking at this, I'm like, none of this makes sense. This does not even add up between the Go Big project. And if you're going back to 2005, the North Stadium project, the East Stadium project from 2013, all those would have been done during this time. The Devaney Center renovations to turn it into the volleyball, plus the additions of the basketball practice facility and the gymnastics one, and the new soccer and tennis facility that was built. All that's happened during this time at zero debt. They have brought on zero debt, the athletic department, to do that. And I'm like, how in the world is Nebraska listed at 42? And one of the reasons is because a team that you won't see anywhere on this top 50 is Notre Dame. You won't see Duke. You won't see private schools on it. And it's because when you see stats like this, Redcasters, understand that the University Foundation is a private institution, and that's where a lot of the money that gets donated goes to the University Foundation. That's how the money gets moved around. So there's all of those projects alone would have added up to more than the 230 whatever million that was on this list, let alone the fact that we sell out every single game, and all those tickets that are sold out come with mandatory donations that come on with them. I mean, it is, I don't even know what the number is that Nebraska has donated the fan support, but I can promise you it is not number 42 out of 50. And so I just thought I'd want to highlight this here. Boomer, you're kind of our local accountant, numbers guy. When you see a stat like that, did you start to question it? I don't know if you saw this one when it came out.
Yeah, I saw it when it came out, and it did kind of raise some of the same questions. And I wondered how much of it is just a difference between particular bookkeeping or donations to a foundation versus the athletic department or the school directly, and that probably accounts for quite a bit of it, I would think. Without diving too deep into the numbers, that would make the most sense because, no offense to friends of like Kansas State or Indiana, I can't imagine they've got boosters ponying up more than Nebraska does. Just looking at just a few schools on that list, that would just be my gut feeling, but.
Boomer, it kind of makes me question, obviously, the entire list. Obviously, we think ours is off. And I would think that many of these schools also have foundations or similar organizations that would be operating in a similar way where money isn't going to be reported in the same manner, right?
You would think so. So yeah, I'd be curious. I'll have to, maybe in the off week here, I'll dive more into the actual study itself and see how they break it down. And is it that Knight Commission? I think in USA Today worked on this together, if I remember right. So
well, that won't be biased with Oregon #1 in the top.
Well, that helps a bit, yeah. So. And Oklahoma State, T. Boone Pickens, throwing oil money around or whatever the heck he owns. So,
Yeah.
But it does go back to the things that are unique about Nebraska. Obviously, again, all those projects that have been built with zero debt, they've been paid off. They haven't taken any taxes from the state to do it. They don't take student fees for it. The athletic department's been self-sufficient, and it really only a handful of athletic departments out there. In fact, Dave, we were talking about this with some of the conference realignment, what Maryland had to do about 10 years ago. They were so far in the red 10 years ago. And then now what UCLA and some of those West schools are, I mean, that's driven some of the conference realignment as these schools are so far in debt. Nebraska's never been in that situation. And it's because of the donors and the tickets being sold and being in the Big Ten and making money from the TV and all that. But Nebraska's in a very favorable financial situation, thankfully.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, it's it feels like this is kind of like fake news.
Yeah, doesn't it? Well, then let's move on to the next one here. Let's move on to the next one. Boomer, you wanted to bring this one up, and I think this is a good one. Mike Schaefer posted this during the game last week, and he goes, "Just one man's opinion, but the Nebraska game day experience could use some help." What were your thoughts?
Yeah, I thought that was kind of interesting, especially to hear it from someone like Mike Schaefer. Now, granted, winning on a more regular basis would help any game day experience. I mean, that goes without saying, I think, when it comes to this. But yeah, when I read that, and then I kind of started thinking about just the actual game day experience in the stadium and kind of how it's been trending for years there. I wonder if he did kind of have a point to it. I mean, I haven't gone to a game yet this season. I mean, I know hockey. You have, Rob, Dave. Have you gone? Yeah, have you been to Memorial Stadium yet?
I'll get back to you on this next week.
Yeah, I was kind of curious your guys' thoughts on that, if it has been. I mean, because we have seen a lot of the same songs, same acts. And part of it is also, I think, just the nature of TV timeouts is completely disrupting any feel of flow or anything in a stadium. So you have all these random slots you got to fill time with. So we're giving out some lifetime achievement award to somebody or another that we've never heard of, those sorts of things that they're just kind of filling space with. Hockey, I know you're a season ticket holder currently. What are your thoughts on that? What have you thought of game day experience, comparing it to like even, say, Minnesota and Colorado this year? Granted, Colorado is going to be a different kind of beast with Dion this year, but
yeah,
other places you visited recently.
I don't know. Like, let's use Colorado, where there's crazy excitement there going on right now. I don't know that the game day experience of what they did, what the athletic department did, is anything more special than what our athletic department tries to do on their own. I mean, there's only so much that you can manufacture. At some point, you got to win games. You got to, the team itself, the program has to create some excitement. I do think it's interesting that we call it game day because there's a difference in Memorial Stadium right now between game day and night day or game night experiences. The night experience where you get the third quarter drone show and everything that happened against Northern Illinois, that's a different experience than the daytime one where none of that goes on. So that's something where, they can do some things to try to manufacture some excitement. But just in general, I understand the part about, I think that we could use some new traditions if possible, or I kind of brought it up where I love the history of Nebraska football. I absolutely do. But we're getting to a point where it's like we're bringing out this team for their 20th anniversary. And in my mind, I can go, I remember when we brought them out for their 15th year and when we brought them out for their 10th year. And there are these kind of Groundhog Day moments, I feel sometimes, where it's like, oh, we're kind of doing the same thing over and over. And I don't know how you go away from that. I'd like to see us have more success so that maybe we have some more new things to show, a more impressive This Week in the Pros, segment, things like that. I mean, that's the stuff that when I went down to Oklahoma, they did a lot of the same things we did and do, because they're a very similar program historically as we are. But then they also go, oh, and here's the thing, we're going to bring out the 3 guys that just, scored touchdowns last weekend from the NFL or whatever. They would bring out something very relevant and new. So it's that's where we're at by just not having some of the recency success.
Yeah, do you think, like commenter John here comments that we need to try to get the student body more included in the game day, experience and atmosphere? 'Cause, I mean, you think of Wisconsin, the whole jump around thing and kind of how that
always Wisconsin boomer, yes.
Yeah. But just bringing it up as another example in the Big Ten, that would be a classic one.
I mean, I think they're trying to do that with, to Honky's point, with the fourth quarter transition, et cetera, right? It just, I mean, I don't know what other fan bases are well known for just involving their student body as well as Wisconsin, that one example, I guess. But I mean, I guess I get what he's saying, but I also don't get it. As someone else, Josh, somebody was like, I don't get what he's talking about. I mean, like, I don't know what your expectations are, right? I mean, you can do better video segments. To Honky's point, if we had more success on the field, we could be bringing out more, hey, this team 5 years ago actually did something opposed to going 4-8. I don't still know what you expect, right? I guess, I mean, I just at Minnesota and Colorado, and I didn't think either one of those did anything exceptional from their audio visual or, interaction with the fan base that was like, wow, why don't we do that? It was pretty much like, it's about the same, right? So I guess unless I'm missing something, I don't know what else we should be doing.
I mean,
you could just generally. Go ahead, Rob.
I was just going to say, I've never really had a bad experience going to those games. It's a football game. I'm there to watch football, sit in the stands. The people around me are always super friendly, and it's enjoyable to be there. The least enjoyable part of me going to those games so far is that I haven't seen them win one at home. So, this weekend that's going to change. So that's exciting.
You sure know how to pick them, Rob.
Well, and that's the thing right there, is that depending on what the situation is, like someone just mentioned Penn State. I saw in one of the quotes there, Penn State is very different at night with a whiteout. I mean, that was an amazing scene last week against Iowa, but I've seen a lot of Penn State games on TV, and I've been to a Penn State game. Granted, it was Sandusky week, so there was other weird things going on. But I've seen Penn State where it's not that environment as well. I mean, night games versus day games. Dave, the year that you and I went to the Horseshoe, when we went to Ohio State in 2016, Dave, and it was a top 10 Nebraska team against Ohio State, and it's in the Horseshoe. We got to see the full experience of Ohio State. The week before that, they played Northwestern at home, and I remember watching that game. And that wasn't the same stadium. So from place to place, from day to night, it changes. And Nebraska, the last time we played Michigan at home, that night game, that place was crazy. And that was thunderstruck the second time that they did it, 1 week after the night game against Northwestern. And the environment was crazy. So it really does. There's a lot of things that play into it. But I get what Schaefer's saying here too. I do get it. There's times where, especially against Northern Illinois and La Tech, just the opponent didn't quite bring it out. But I think it's a good segue to what's going to be happening this weekend. Michigan, if that doesn't get the blood boiling in the fan base, that we have the number 2 team in the country, of a fellow blue blood, all that. I mean, this place should be rocking, whether this game was an 11, 2:30 or nighttime game.
Sure. So, Honky, that's a good question. I know it's only Tuesday, but I listened to a lot of the local radio via podcast, and I heard more than one sports journalists mentioned how they felt like there wasn't a lot of juice behind this game, that no one's really that excited about it. Everybody's kind of reserved to the loss 31-7 or whatever, right? I mean, I don't know. Do you feel like the campus has got a little buzz going to it? People are excited about the game this weekend, or is it a little subdued?
I don't know that I feel anything different right now from past. You'll start to see it more on Thursday and Friday as you start to see Wolverine fans come into town and everything. And I guess Fox Noon isn't setting up here, right? They're going to be in Boulder again. Is that right?
Yes.
So
somebody lost the key to the U-Haul. So
no kidding. But I just think that in general, as we get closer, it will get crazy. But at the end of the day, what the fan base feels like to me right now is they're really putting the onus on the team. You got to show up. You got to do something. And I hope the crowd is nuts from the beginning. I really do. But I think of Oklahoma game last year, and we had Brett Ciancia come down. We did a tour with Brett Ciancia the day before, and he even talked about the environment at Lincoln was amazing for the 15 minutes prior to the game and the kickoff and the tunnel walk. And the first quarter, we scored a touchdown early on Oklahoma, and the place was rocking. And he said this is as good as any place he's ever been in. And that was for an 11 a.m. kickoff. And then they scored like 85 points in a row or whatever stupid number it was. And people are leaving by halftime and I don't even blame them. It just turned on them so quick. So I think people are cautious right now. They want to see this team, do something right away against Michigan. But what I'll say is support the heck out of this team. And if we have some early success, man, I hope this crowd, if they are subdued, I hope they turn in a hurry. Because we need this crowd to be loud and disruptive. Michigan has not left Ann Arbor this season yet. Michigan has not played a major opponent of any kind. And I know Michigan. I respect the heck out of Michigan. This is not me knocking Michigan in any way, but Michigan hasn't played in a big game environment yet this season. We played on a Thursday night on Fox, and we played in Colorado at noon. The big Fox noon game. We played 2 national TV games. So. There we go. Rutgers on line 2 for you.
So big game wise, someone commented, you can bring that back up about the Bussin Bowl. This is
they'll be there.
So the boys will be there. Barstool Gang apparently there. So that'll be fun. That'll definitely get that Michigan thing going on there, So you do have a huge fan base with a lot of kind of well-known alumni and whatnot. So that should be add to the spice there a little bit.
And here's John Fields making a very appropriate comment to his last name. He goes, "Well, if we win it, the fan base will start believing we might even storm the field." And that's been a big social media thing for the last couple of weeks. Is should you storm the field or should you not? And I was jokingly responding to one younger person on social media where I'm like, the old guy in me, the 1990s guy says don't storm the field, but for anyone that's younger than 25, I'm like, you can storm it anytime you want. You can storm it between quarters if we're ahead of the team. You earned it. You deserve it if you're a young kid. And even the 90s guy in me, look, we stormed the field back in the days too. So I would love nothing more than that to see Memorial Stadium rocking like that. The last one here is baseball. And I just want to touch on this briefly. There's 2 tweets. One of them was that we had the number 1 class, JUCO ranking class for recruiting coming in for next year. So that's good. And they did announce the schedule. And early on, we have right off out of the gates, we played Baylor and Texas Tech and Oklahoma. And overall, we have a better schedule in conference. So, baseball, I know it's a little ways away, but just wanted to bring it up there, get it on the radar. And this is a big season for Bolt and the guys.
Yeah, absolutely. With Childress as an official member of staff, I think it's interesting. It's the number 1 made it to campus JUCO class ranking, which is very specific but important.
That's right. I guess I missed that part. That is a key part of it, though. Yeah, that's
yeah. If it was the number 1 didn't make it to campus JUCO class ranking, that'd be not good. But
I was the number 1 never made it to campus college class. I was always off doing something else instead of going to class.
But hockey, to your point, the schedule is on paper at least better. Now last year, we lost to San Diego, who we thought would be a tourney team, and that really put us on the wrong foot, and we suffered with RPI numbers all year long. But it does appear that this should have a schedule that has some more depth to it, not just at the beginning of the season with Baylor, Texas Tech, and Oklahoma for the opening weekend, but some of our midweek matchups. We've got Wichita State in there. Got rid of Northern Colorado. And better Big Ten opponents. We get, I think, at least 3 of the Big Ten teams that made the tournament last year.
I'm saying Maryland.
What do you mean you got rid of Northern Colorado? Come on now. Jeez,
I'm just telling you the truth, Rob, is that although I appreciate that they're have a baseball program, they usually rank in the 300s, and even if we beat them, we get drugged down in the RPI.
I don't disagree. It was only because their head coach wasn't he a former? He's a former player.
Anderson now coaches there again, actually.
Yeah.
So that connection's been there for a long time.
Well, there's your tweets of the week.
Cool. Should we talk offense?
Yeah, let's go.
All right, let's talk all things Nebraska offense with the scoring explosion. And Honky, I mean, you broke down some great film there with Mac talking about the option. I know that I think it's an interesting take here. You know, how much option are we playing? How dedicated do we have to be to that? Is that more just because of a Harburg thing, or do you think if Sims comes back, he also would be in that situation? We learned today that they moved Josh Fleeks to the running back room for a little more depth there. What kind of you expect on Saturday?
Yeah, I hope. I guess my expectation would be that we see a heavy dose of option, and I think that it's not just something that Harburg does particularly well. I think the team does well with it. The offensive line blocks well. We're a better run blocking team than we are a pass blocking team. When we pass the ball, we pass it better out of play action, and the better that we can run, the more of the options that we can do. I think it makes the defense have to see more things, and we can get a guy downfield behind him if you're doing some play action and doing some things that are drawing them up. We have a tweet of the week here for offense, and it was from Michael Severe. And he goes, the Huskers lined up in the I formation 14 times in the second half, 12 rushes for 110 yards, 1 incomplete pass to 31 and a fumbled snap. 11 of the runs were by Grant for 102 yards. Could have had 63 more if not for the downfield holding call. Other run was option keeper for 8. So that's referencing in the second half there. We came out when it was 7-7 at halftime, came out. We got under center. If it felt like we were under center, we were quite a bit. We did a lot of option there in the second half. Controlled clock. You know, I think we scored 21 unanswered points. It was 28-7 by the time that rain delay came. And we'd taken care of the ball pretty well. We had over 300 yards rushing in that game. And there was one point where there's about 9 minutes left or 10 minutes left in the fourth quarter. And I looked up the stats, and we had like 325 rushing yards, and we'd given up 34 rushing yards. Like that's a formula for success, just period. I don't know how we'll find out how that translates to Michigan, but that's a formula for success over the course of the remainder of this season. If we can run the ball and we can stop the run.
Yeah, that first drive in particular in the third quarter at 7-7, we come out and establish, a long drive there that results in a touchdown all on the ground. Severe's tweet there, he references Anthony Gratton got most of those carries in that drive and not a lot of option. Did I read that correctly?
Yeah, they did some. I think they were doing some handoffs up the gut. They were even doing some inside, some pitches, some 41 pitches that they said today that Ron Brown helped play a role of kind of getting them to incorporate some of that into the offense. So it looked old school. I mean, we would get in the I formations. We had tight ends out there, fullbacks obviously on the field. There was pitches. There was a lot of counter plays. It's a physical style of approach. And the main thing, and I know Severe hit on it here too, the downfield blocking. There's something special going on right now with our receivers, tight ends, in the run game, but even on some of the catches. When Fedoni catches that touchdown pass and he turns up field, there's 2 guys downfield blocking 30 yards for him. I mean, you're seeing it all across the area. And I know we had a couple holding calls on it, but my goodness, I don't want to do anything to dissuade that kind of aggressiveness. Those guys, that's going to be a problem for teams to have to defend.
Yeah, let's talk about, and I can throw this to Rob or Boomer because I know Honky's already said his piece. But with the option and this idea of that Harburg actually he didn't really pitch the ball, but Honky has made the case in previous shows that he felt like he was just making the right decision. That maybe only 1 or 2 times he could have probably better been off pitching the ball to Grant or whoever was trailing him. Boomer, you've seen a lot of option football. I mean, do you agree with that assessment, or do you feel like he's still tentative to actually pitch the ball?
I tend to would say he made the right reads in those cases. I mean, it's called option ball. It's not a command to pitch. You just have that option too. And, the big thing is making that read and making it right. And some of that I suppose might just come down to what Harburg's strengths are running that, keeping it, making that right read. Like this is a good question for Hockey here. I don't know the answer to it myself from Screws fans. Have any of the running backs on the team run the option before? Were any of these guys from a program of any sort?
I would think
really
I would think Pewee in high school, most of these guys, I mean, that's almost like the first offense that a lot of these kids, I mean, with my son now, he's a sophomore in high school. He's playing football this year, and he played some flag, but he played a little bit of other football and before that. And I mean, the options seem like the number one offense that they teach you when you're first learning football itself, right? Like,
because it's so easy, right?
Yeah, exactly. But somebody asked if I was sleeping. No, I'm not sleeping. I'm just listening tonight. And
well, even
I just didn't feel like anything was like. There was a couple times I felt like, oh, he could have pitched it there, but then he runs for 7-8 yards and gets the first down or whatever. And so, like, if he wasn't getting yards, if he wasn't running 70 whatever yards for touchdown, if he wasn't, if he was like fumbling the ball a bunch or something like that, I might question it. But at this point, like, it feels like he knows what he's doing.
So let me ask this question then to Honky. Now that this is on tape, kind of 2 weeks almost of starting to build up a little bit, Michigan has got a pretty smart coaching staff and players that can get coached up in a week. Do you think that they are going to be very intentional in trying to focus on Harburg and forcing him to pitch if we're going to run a similar offense this week?
Sure. Yeah, I think that's something Mac and I talked about a lot last night was, if I'm Michigan, I'm going to force that. That it has not been forced on him by Northern Illinois or La Tech. Yeah, he would cut up, and there was a guy that he optioned, and the guy that he was optioning would go out on the pitch guy. And so he'd cut up and make it clean through the hole. I don't think Michigan's going to give him that. I think Michigan's going to, make sure there's a guy on him and a guy to hit him. But if he can make that pitch, that's the thing. If he can make the pitch and we have the guy can catch the ball, I mean, that it's still a numbers game. Michigan isn't just going to magically have an extra guy, a 12th guy on the field that those other teams didn't have. So
they might only have 10.
Well, they're not Notre Dame.
If you're Notre Dame,
it's still a numbers game. And if Michigan, and so somebody last night on the show said, well, Michigan's just going to load the box. Cool. How often do you option into the box? Put 11 guys in the box, please. I would love that.
Or 10 if you're Notre Dame.
Yeah, and 10 if you're Notre Dame. Put them all in the box, and we'll try to run option outside of that. And we'll try to crack block and have, tight ends on the outside there. And we'll try to, keep you and contain you inside and get around you. And then if you start to spread out your defense, guess what? That's when you hit them up the middle with a fullback dive if we're in the I formation, or at least a run up the gut there. I mean, you try to run to where they're not, and that's no different than any other offense. So I don't know the histories of every running back that we have on the team. That was a good question about have they run option before? But if you're going to be a good option team, you need to rep it heavily. And that's what we talked about last night on the show about embracing this, is that this is what this is going to be this year. Satterfield said he's never called option offense until he met Ron Brown this year. So that's our offensive coordinator saying, I've never done this before. But it is, look, what they're running right now, they can build off of what they've already done. I've seen enough in the last 2 weeks, just functionally, of what we're doing. I don't care who the opponent was. I've seen enough to say that you can build off of this. Keep doing what you're doing right now. Rep the hell out of it.
Now that raises a question for me, Honky. Does that sort of suggest that you'd expect Harburg to start from here on out? Because I don't know if Sims has played option, if he's shown, the proclivity or ability to do that. I mean, are you pretty well wanting to hitch your horse to Harburg as our starting QB for the rest of the year? Because like I said, if repetition is the key to the option, is that what you're expecting or what you'd like to see for the rest of the season?
They both have similar skill sets, but there has to be a willingness to run it too. And so we'll see what Sims is. Sims, we've kind of talked about this ad nauseum the first week or two, that, there's this mentality that he thinks he's a pro quarterback, blah, blah, blah. Right now, this is not a pro passing team, period. This is our offensive line is built to do what they've been doing on the in this getting under center in the I formation and the option. We broke down some plays last night watching Corcoran in the run game versus the pass game, versus at least the drop back game. And you got to build what your strengths are. And right now, do I think that Jeff Sims, even without watching him run a lot of option, he ran a little bit. He ran an option out of the I formation against Minnesota. He kept it. He ran an option, I think, out of shotgun against Colorado, ran it to the right, and he pitched it to Ramirez. So we've seen just a little bit of it, but he definitely has the skill set to do it. He can run. We saw that against Colorado on the 50-some yard run that he had. So I know he has the skills to do it. It's just the willingness. Are you willing to take the hits and go out there and run that style? It's not a drop back passing scheme. I don't know if it's going to get you to the pros, but right now, what this team seems to do best, and we can get some big plays off it, is running this style. So I'm enjoying it. I hope it doesn't go away this season. This is what I want to see us do right now.
Do you think it will go away in the next season, though? I mean, you feel like this is kind of a temporary fix?
I do. I mean, to the extent of, like, let's be extremely optimistic here, that I think that the option is that it's from the Tree of Life. I love that, Dion. That's awesome. Dang, I just lost my thought. No, I think let's be extremely optimistic and say Harburg is our quarterback for the next 3 years. He just takes the reins and he starts the next 30 games. I even think that by next year or 2 years from now, even if Harburg's still a quarterback, that we would over time transition to the style that I think that we all thought we'd probably be running with Satterfield and Rule, which is there's going to be more drop back stuff. There's going to be more pro style stuff with it, with a heavy dose of run, but not as much of the quarterback run, not as much option. But this season, I think this is our calling card for the next 8 games.
Yeah, it's our best potential way to get to 6 wins, right? I mean, we're going to have to find offense. In reality, Big Ten West doesn't look that good. And we've got teams like Michigan State that potentially should be more likely to win than that they were at the beginning of the season. So you got to piece something together here. And if you can get an extra 15 practices because you ran some option this year and went 6-6, probably going to be worth it, right?
Yep. And if we beat Michigan this weekend, then all the Robs out there can start to say, "Hey, we're going 10-2," and they'll have some validity behind that statement. So I will say for Michigan, this does at least give them something else to have to prepare for. Option teams traditionally, you've always heard this with the service academies, when someone goes and plays Army, Navy, whatever, they're a pain to prepare for. This is going to be a pain to prepare for. We just have to do it. We have to do it well. We've got to be sharp. I mean, Michigan is going to be a bear of a team to play, but also I'll be the first to say beatable. And they're coming into Lincoln, Nebraska, and this is their first time leaving Ann Arbor, and this is going to be a big game environment. And it's not that it's too big for Michigan. Don't get me wrong there. It's not too big for them, but it's going to be a big game environment. And I think Nebraska's prepared to play in that. So I'm ready. I'm so pumped. I'm so pumped for this. This is not the Nebraska fans. If you're fearful, we asked a Twitter question.
What time is it? It's 38 minutes. My wife Katie asked me before I got on. I was like, "How long will it take into the show before Hockey predicts a Nebraska win?" I'm like, 38 minutes.
I don't predict wins or losses. It would not surprise me if Nebraska takes this very, very, very deep into the game. I'll put it that way.
Let's try to wrap this up, but
sure.
Let's go off of that though. Okay, before we go to defense, I'll start with Boomer, then Rob, and then Hockey. If there was one thing that we did that led to us actually pulling this upset or taking this right down to the last couple minutes on offense, what's the key on offense to make this a game? Boomer.
Well, I think one thing that would help would be just a little bit of a faster start than we've had in the last few games. I mean, that has kind of been one of the things that's been, problematic, at least on offense. We didn't score a whole lot against, Colorado early on. We, what was the La Tech game, 7-7 or thereabouts at halftime? It was Northern Illinois at halftime. It wasn't, huge either. But, let's be up early so, you don't, you're not having to worry about, that second half quite as much. Maybe Michigan's chasing you, so you're forcing them into a slightly more uncomfortable situation where they can't just, run the ball or do whatever it is they want to do.
Okay.
That would be a great start, I think. Starting a little faster, getting
Fast
some points. So it's
start.
taking a little bit of pressure off your defense from having to constantly perform, at
Boomer's
a super high
offensive
level.
key.
So
Fast start. Okay, Rob, what's your key?
Control the clock.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. I think if they have the ball for 35 plus minutes of this game, they win. It'll be close. It'll be like 24-17 or 20-27.
So if we have the ball for more than 35 minutes of a 60-minute play clock,
we'll win this game.
All right, yeah, and I think we can expound on that a little bit on the defensive side because it goes both ways, right? Yeah. Good. Anki, besides obviously breaking off 400 yards of options, what would you do?
Well, besides the obvious one of turnovers, I mean, the first 2 games we have 8 turnovers, we go 0-2. The next 2 games we have 1 turnover, we go 2-0. Irregardless of opponent, don't turn the ball over. But aside from that, take points when you can get them. The last time that Michigan came to Nebraska, they had not been down the entire season, the night game of 2021. Nebraska goes right down the field in their first drive. We have a great opportunity to at least kick a field goal and go up 3-0, be the first lead on the Wolverines all season. And we go for it on 4th and 3, 4th and goal at the 3-yard line. Don't get it, 0 points. Take points when you can get them. Make points. Make your 30-yard field goals like we didn't last week. And so that would be a concern of mine, by the way, that we missed that. but take the points when you can take them, and just play normal football here. We don't have to do anything superhuman here. Don't make the big mistakes, and try to win some field position and take your losses when you take them. If it's 3rd and 15, it might just be time to run a draw and punt the ball and let your defense get out there and try to get the ball back.
Yep. Yeah. I think Rutgers is back on line 2, is that they did take the lead against Michigan last week. So.
Yeah, they got it right away. They did a good job. Third play of the game, I think, or 4th play of the game. They broke up one big pass.
They forced a punt, and it looked like they were really going to do something, and then
Rutgers was back.
That's right. All right, guys, let's turn our attention to the defense and break down all things black shirts with throwing the bones. And let's kind of, take a look at this game from that perspective and think about what we're going to do against this Michigan offense, which is a little bit, I don't know. I mean, lackluster might be the right term. It's not like they're not good. Blake Corum is still a great running back. I think McCarthy can make a lot of throws, but they haven't been putting up a lot of points. They are very consistent in these games. I don't know the exact run, but it's like 31-6, 31-7, 30-3.
Yeah.
It's like the same game every single.
It is basically, yeah.
The yardage isn't as impressive as last year. They were throwing up big numbers against non-con, 62 points, 56, that type of stuff. So a little bit different, but that doesn't mean this team isn't going to continue to get better and continue to kind of impose their will on anybody who gets in their way. But I think one of the most interesting stats I've seen kind of previewing this game is their drive charts. And last week against Rutgers, they only had 7 drives the entire game. So to Rob's point about us controlling the ball, Michigan actually has had long sustained drives, and it just take the wind out of the entire game from both sides by just these long. And I think they scored on 5 of the 7 drives or something like that for 4 touchdowns and a field goal. And I mean, Rutgers, after a little bit of a hot start, never really could get going again. I think they averaged somewhere around 10 drives a game. I was looking at it. The one game that I think they had 12 or 13 drives was Bowling Green, is that's because McCarthy threw 3 INTs against that MAC team, right? So I'd be curious to know if anybody here thinks we can get a turnover or 2 versus this Michigan offense. But I think that's going to be a key, is how many drives do they end up empty with, right?
Well, something I noticed too watching that Michigan game was the number of open field tackles that Rutgers were missing, right? And so there was quite a few like 3rd downs. I think they even had like quite a few 3rd and longs, 3rd and 9s that were getting converted on those long drives because because Rutgers was just missing open field tackles. And if we know anything about this Nebraska team this year, at least so far, it's that they've been much better at tackling, right? And getting those open field tackles and getting to the ball and grouping around the ball. Louisiana Tech had a couple of wide receivers that are next level guys. And, we did a pretty good job, I would say, containing them and, keeping a lid on the game for them. So I think that one of the things that our defense will do better than what Rutgers did to help kill some of those drives is tackling on those 3rd and longs and keeping the ball underneath. So
Yeah,
it's just an opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, a defensive tweet of the week we did was we said this is from the Go Big Redcast that there was NU's rush defense through 4 games. Minnesota had 55 yards, CU had 58, Northern Illinois had 26, La Tech had 46, which basically matched our average of 46.25 yards a game. So you're starting to see a trend. Opponents be damned. It's through 4 games we did that. Now, speaking of one of those opponents, Husker Gameday posted that Minnesota Gophers, their total rushing yards per game, they had 55 against Nebraska, and then their next 3, Eastern Michigan, they ran for 296. Against UNC, they ran for 170, and then at Northwestern, they ran for 244. So you take that and at least can take from that Minnesota is trying to run the ball. They almost hit 300 against Eastern Michigan. They hit over 202 of the next 3 games, and the 55 that we held them to, I think, stands up pretty nicely. So this is going to be a great litmus test for Nebraska this week against Michigan. How do we do against them? But I would also say anytime you're looking at stats this early in the season, especially looking at Michigan's, you got to look at their opponents too. And they haven't played any world beaters yet either. They are number 1 scoring defense in the country, 5.8 points a game they've given up. And to Dave's point, they scored, a fairly pedestrian 31.8, which is 53rd in the country against the teams that they've played for being number 2 in the country. I call it pedestrian there. But yeah, it's 31.8 to 5.8 is what their games have been.
So I'll go back to the keys of the game here on the defensive side. If there's one thing that we're going to do that's going to make this a close game at the end or a pull off an upset, what is it gonna take for us to do that? Boomer?
Boy, you'd like to see obviously the run defense continue to hold up like that. Anytime you can hold an opponent to 50 some yards or so a game, that's making pretty one dimensional. It's going to be a big help. But I think this would be a great time to win that turnover battle in a game. Whatever it takes. Just be on the positive side on turnovers. Because like you said, Dave, if Michigan's going to go in long sustained drives, you might need the ball more. Just don't let them have very many long sustained drives if that's what it's going to be. That'll keep that scoring down. Keep your defense off the field. Get it back to that offense. Keep the fans into it. I think that's what you need to do. Just win the turnover battle this week. I think it'd be huge.
Be opportunistic and then play complementary football, right?
Exactly.
I think that makes a difference. I'll throw one out before I throw Donkey or Robbie because I don't want him to take it. I think is getting pressure on the quarterback. Right, we did not get a sack last week versus La Tech, I believe. Now that's kind of because of how their offense is structured. They do a lot of quick passes, but again, I mean, Michigan's capable of doing that if they feel like they're putting McCarthy in harm's way back there by having these long developing plays. They might take a cue out of the La Tech playbook and do a lot of quick stuff. And I think we need to be able to get home at least a little bit against that quarterback to make this interesting. Honky?
Part of not having the long drives is you got to get off the field in 3rd and longs. We've had so many 3rd and 8s, 3rd and 9s, 3rd and 10s that teams have converted on us. So we've got to get the 3rd down, especially 3rd and long defense improved here. And this would be a great week to do it. And I'll just throw one word out there, and this has to do with the long drives you're talking about, Dave, is that I think potentially a benefit that we have right now is the depth that we seem to have created through 4 games on defense. If we can go out there and play 21, 22 defenders here in the first quarter, like we have, or in the first half over the course of that, that can go a long ways to, even if there is a longer drive, that we can rotate guys in and out. And eventually at some point, I'd like to think that this defense is good enough. They've shown enough that if it's going to take a team 10, 15 plays, to get down the field and score on us, at some point, something's going to happen. We're going to hold them. We're going to get that turnover, or we're going to hold them on a 4th and short like we have a couple of times this season. So that's what I'm hoping that this defense can do is just enough to hold them to field goals if that's what it takes, or maybe get that turnover or get that stop on a 3rd down, and just let's mucky it up. Let's make this an ugly game.
Ugly games in the Big Ten? What are you talking?
Yeah.
It's the elegant league of football, isn't it?
That's right.
Rob, what's your key?
I'm going to say limit the stupid penalties. We have, we have had some really stupid penalties with personal fouls and just some really bad calls that didn't have to go against us because we didn't have to make those, stupid plays. So I think that, a lot of the things like turn around, look at the ball. If you're one of the cornerbacks, if the ball's in the air, don't just like throw your body at the guy and get a pass interference. Don't hit guys after the play is over and knock them down. I'm talking to a couple of our defensive line guys. A lot of that stuff, if you can clean that up and not give them yards they're not earning, then I think that's another way to, limit the length of their possessions on defense.
I got a question for you guys. I'm just looking at Ann Arbor's forecast right now, and it's 70 tomorrow, 66 on Thursday, Friday 74. Nebraska on Saturday during the game, it's going to be 91 degrees. I think
I saw
that.
I saw that.
Do you see is there any advantage there? Do you think that does anything for Nebraska that we've had quite the heat spell? It's going to be a late hot game here in Nebraska, late September. Any advantage? Maybe I'm making nothing out of it.
I think Michigan practices in 90-degree heat just last month, so I don't think it's probably a big deal. It's not going to hurt, but I wouldn't think it would be a big deal. I don't know. It's a good question.
Instead
There's
of
also about a 400-foot altitude difference from Ann Arbor to Lincoln, so it can pay off too.
Instead of fans on their side of the field, can we put heaters and turn those on?
Those are all the good things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love the altitude thing, Boomer. Can we play this in Laramie? That would be wonderful.
Yeah. Can we let the turf grow a little bit? Can we throw down an extra layer or something like that to slow it down?
I'm all for it.
File down all of their cleats overnight, break into their locker room and file down all the cleats.
Mm-hmm.
That'd just be dirty, Rob. I don't think we can do that. All right, Honk, is there anything else you want to talk about before we start talking Betcast?
Well, no, I'm going to take off here, but I guess we're going to introduce Talon, Redcast Talon. He'll be part of the Betcast here. Dave, your nephew. But
should we bring him up right now, Honky?
Why not here? Talon, let's get you onto the stage. We can see all five of us here. Talon,
stop picking your nose.
Yeah, Talon was my plus one driving out to Colorado, so I appreciate that. And we watched the game out there in Boulder together. And Dave's nephew, he takes care of our TikTok. Welcome to the Redcast, Redcast Strong.
It's great to be here.
Oh, come on, bring the energy, man.
I know, man.
Been sitting here a while.
We're talking about game day atmosphere and youth. And
this is the problem. The kids aren't crazy enough, man.
Talon.
With the NIU, I thought we were just fine with the night game. The LA Tech game, it was tough because it's we would have these big plays that would get called back. And I think just being 7-7 at halftime, I think a lot of the student section just kind of died off. You just saw people kind of just you would look up and a fourth of the student section was gone. So I think just having such kind of a slow paced game, and I know that's how we're going to play this year, but I think that's a big part, especially playing a team that I would say that Northern Illinois was a better team than Louisiana Tech. And to see how we played against NIU in that second half and then how we played against Louisiana Tech, I think it just kind of dialed down the hype a little bit.
Sucked the air out of the stadium, huh?
There was a lot of students going in the second half of the La Tech game
it was
before the rain delay. And some of that I think is just the opponent. I sure as heck hope. I mean, I don't care what the score is unless it gets out of hand bad for us. If it's a 7-7 game in the third quarter, I'm hoping that crowd is 100% full all the way through for Michigan here. There's no reason for anyone to be leaving. So, but Talon, Dave asked the question earlier, and I think this is an interesting one. Do you feel on campus right now? It's only been 2 days of the week, but are you feeling anything in your classes and talking to other students with, that the number 2 team is coming here? Are you starting to feel? Is there any kind of feeling on campus that this is a big game this weekend?
I think with how the offense is playing, I think there's a little bit of a skepticism that we can play with Michigan.
Mhm.
I think I wouldn't say there's a ton of hype coming into this game and like the students right now just because of how we played this last game. Yeah, I wouldn't say people are saying it's a big game for us. I think a lot of people are expecting us to get kind of hosed by this team. and I don't think this way, but I think people who've watched the last couple games and especially watched us against that Colorado team, 3 weeks ago and watching, how good that offense is and kind of comparing it to Michigan, I think it's kind of tough to get excited about it. I think people are going to show up. People are going to be loud. But to sit here and say it's a big game and there's a lot of hype towards this game, I wouldn't say that. No.
Yeah, well,
Man,
that is
that's
where
so-
we're at.
It's where some people are. I'm living in a different world from that. I can promise you.
Monkey
but
is giddy right now in
I
anticipation.
am giddy. I'm loving what I'm seeing from a physical standpoint, and I think I don't see any comparison right now with Colorado and Michigan. I can tell you that.
No. And I just think it's.
But I understand what you're getting at, though. I understand where you're coming from with that.
Yeah. So that's
absolutely.
You
Yeah,
young
all right, well-
whippersnappers. Gosh.
Well, all they want is Dion as the head coach, Honky. That's where we messed
Yeah.
up. We just should have went and got Prime. It would have been
I
fine.
don't know about that.
Do you want a good game? I don't know.
I'd rather
Yeah.
have Fickle than Prime, but you know.
All right, well, Honk, I think you've done your duty for the Redcast this week. That you've logged about 3 hours or so. We'll let you kick back and relax, and you enjoy this Betcast segment. All right, buddy.
Absolutely, go for it.
Have a good one.
The Betcast Picks of the Week.
All right. Well, I don't know about picks of the week, but we'll at least preview some of the biggest games of the week and maybe give you some insight. I know that Rob is just poring over his sports betting books right now, trying to pick out the best games of the week. Hopefully, maybe Talon's got a few in mind. I'm sure Boomer has got a crazy 3-leg parlay that he wants to bring up. Rob, I'll start with you because you mentioned one before the show that you really like. So let's start with one that you're hot about, and that is a brand new Big 12 versus Big 12 rivalry.
I didn't even put that together when I was looking at this either. Which
Cincinnati, the Bearcats, heading out to Provo, but they would have never thought of that a few years ago, and favored against BYU by 1.5. So BYU catching a 1.5. You might even get 2 somewhere. Rob, why do you like BYU so much here?
I just think BYU, I like the way that they've been playing this year. They're at home against Cincinnati. So, I mean, it's kind of weird that they are the dog here. I'm not quite sure, but, I've been kind of riding them a little bit this year already. And, I like the way that I've actually been, betting with BYU this year. They've kind of been a team that I've been following along with. And, it's, I like the way, the over under on this game is 48.5. It just seems like that's kind of a number that might be interesting too. I think both these teams are capable of putting up 25 points and, so maybe the over on it as well. But BYU at the underdog of +1.5. And I like them not to win outright. So I think that's a really safe bet for anyone on this game.
All right. You think the home field advantage here, Provo does definitely give them an edge.
Yeah, especially with the altitude.
That's right. Way higher than the riverfront of Cincinnati.
Yeah.
I'll have to call you out here, Rob, because the thing is that I've been trailing BYU too. Vegas Jerry was hot on him a couple of weeks ago, right? And he hit that Arkansas game. So I jumped on him against Kansas last week going into Lawrence.
Yeah, that was a letdown.
They were getting +10 at one point. And they didn't even cover that. They lost by 11.
They did.
So I'm a little cold on them. So I don't know. I get the home field advantage though. Boomer, what do you think about this one?
I haven't watched either of these teams play a whole lot this year. So to be totally honest, yeah, I don't have a grand feeling about either of them. So it's just such a weird matchup. Just like you said,
Cincinnati only lost by 14 last week.
Yeah,
versus Oklahoma?
Oklahoma's kind of looks like a defensive team this year. Just they don't seem to have that.
Oklahoma put up some big points against a few teams earlier. So
right,
hold them to 20. I thought was pretty good.
yeah, I just don't know enough about either of these two to have a grand feeling for it. So I wouldn't hit this one at all. But you guys are welcome to it. So.
All right. Well, Talon, unless you're dying to talk about BYU, let's move on to, I think, Friday night's. I think this is Friday night's game of the week. I think it's Friday night. Utah at Oregon State. Beavers favored by 3.5. Did I see that right?
Yeah.
That's
right.
So Oregon State lost to Wazoo last week. Good game, though. But they're at home. And Utah still without Cam Rising, far as we understand, I believe. But fresh off of a really low-scoring physical game there versus UCLA, where they won 14-7, mainly off of a pick six right off the first game of the first play of the game, essentially. I don't know. Talon, what do you think here?
I'm a really big fan of Utah's defense, and I'm not a huge believer right now in DJ Uiagalelei. I mean, I kind of watched the Oregon State Washington State game, and there's like 6 or 7 throws where he's got wide open guys and he's overthrowing them. I mean, pretty simple stuff, and I just think Utah's defense is going to really dominate. I really like their front, so I really like that one. So.
Yeah, I think the wrong team is favored here. I get Oregon State. I like Jonathan Smith as a coach. I think DJ is an upgrade probably over what they've had in the past, but he never was able to get the big wins at Clemson. Anybody else interested in this one?
I am for sure, and I just like Utah. I like Utah straight up on there. Again, like Talon said, with the defense there, I think it's going to be something Oregon State hasn't really faced yet this year in that defense. And I think I actually think Utah could be a potential, upset against a team like Oregon or USC or Washington this year and possibly represent the Pac-12 in the playoffs.
In the Pac-12 again. Yeah. Especially if Cam would come back healthy.
Yeah.
And they somehow stay undefeated until they get to that point.
Yeah.
Well, the other big Pac-12, it's so weird to have all these Pac-12 rankings, right, Boomer? I mean, this is ridiculous. This is like Pac-12 after dark.
I think it's the Pac-2 now, isn't it?
Technically, it's Pac-2 with 10 hangers on.
Well,
right now.
it's called the Big Noon Pac-12 game because that's all they are. And Fox is back out here in Boulder for USC coming to Colorado. And Colorado getting 21.5 points, including that hook. USC, I thought USC would throttle Arizona State last week. And the line was like 34, I think I got it at. And they look a little just like discombobulated on offense. They don't look quite
sleepwalking, there. I think is a good term to use.
Yeah,
for them.
Maybe that.
Or maybe they turned it on like at the end when they, it's like, I mean, the Arizona State got within 3. I think it was 24-21 at one point. And I was watching the game. It was a late game, and boy, was I tired. And I fell asleep for a little bit, turned on the game again, caught it right in, and it was like 42-21. I was like, oh, okay, that's pretty much what I expected to happen.
All I know is they did not cover, Rob. I can tell you
they did not. They did not cover it. I was going to say, so this could be a game possibly where Colorado, although USC's defense really turned it on in the second half. So
yeah, it was Arizona State, Rob. Arizona State got they got shut out by Fresno the week before.
I think they were just sleepwalking. USC was just sleepwalking through that game.
All right, so maybe they're throwing that game out.
They were coming off a bye week too. USC. And Arizona State's they have their backup quarterback in.
Yeah, Drew Pine was in there, I think, wasn't he?
And he wasn't all that great at Notre Dame last year. I mean, he didn't put up anything spectacular. So, and I don't trust USC's defense. I think it's going to be a big reason why they don't win the Pac-12. I don't think they're better than Oregon. And so I actually really like Colorado to cover this. I think Colorado can put up points against that defense and kind of keep it close up until the fourth quarter. I mean,
that depends on how much Shadur can stay off the ground too. He got sacked 4 or 5 times against Oregon last week again. We sacked him 8 times. I mean, that offensive line.
That's going to be a scary season. I mean, they can't run the ball. They don't have an O line or a D line that can constantly get pressure against the QB. I just think I don't trust. There's a couple big plays that Arizona State made through the air with a backup quarterback, and I don't think they have the type of receivers that Colorado has. I really like Colorado's receivers. I just think Oregon came to play last week. I think they made the point. I mean, you heard what Dan Lanning was saying before the game, and then they came, ready to play. And Colorado's at home. I think that atmosphere is going to be rocking, even though they just got blown out. I think Deion's going to have them guys ready. I really do like Colorado's offense still. I don't think they're going to have too much trouble against USC.
Yeah. I think I'm on Talon's side here. Boomer, I think the over-under is at 73.5 right now. You want to go on the over on that one?
I'd probably take the over on that. Yeah, USC will consistently put up 40 to 60 points, it seems, this year, and that gives you a good shot at Colorado doing something. If you think Colorado's going to score at all, then yeah, I think it's a good shot at the over on it. So, yeah, 21.5 is a lot of points. I don't know. Will Colorado be that dismal, as they were this last week? I mean, was there going to be any hangover from that Oregon game? I mean, just getting blitzed and run off the field. I mean, there could be. That's a possibility.
I'm curious to see where this line moves. So much money's been being put on Colorado this year, but the sportsbooks really haven't moved those lines all that much, even in the Nebraska game. I would love to be able to wait and see money come in on Colorado and get this at 20.5 opposed to 21.5. I feel like that's a lot safer, but you might just have to buy that point. I don't know. We'll see. All right, let's go to some others around the country. Ranked versus ranked. LSU going into Ole Miss. LSU favored by 2.5 going into the Grove. What do you think, guys? SEC just doesn't have a lot of sizzle this year.
No, it doesn't. And I'm not sure I trust, Lane Kiffin, against ranked teams and, Power 5 type opponents. I mean, he doesn't seem to perform all that well against them. So I think it's a good chance for LSU to go in there, win that game, and they ought to be able to cover 2.5 pretty easily, I think.
Yeah, get back on track.
Yep.
All right. Anybody else on this one?
I completely agree. So,
I mean, in our pick'em league, I took LSU at 2.5. I think LSU could win this game, but I don't know, man. It's who knows? Let's
go to a game that I know you're gonna have an opinion on, Rob. I know you love just like these deep cut games right here. This is just Coastal Carolina at Georgia Southern. So this is the Tim Beck offense going against Clay Helton. Georgia Southern favored by 6.5. I think there's way too many points for the Eagles to cover, and like Coastal Carolina to keep this close. What do you think, Rob?
I don't know. Coastal Carolina let me down last week, so I'm
I think that's an overreaction, Rob. That's my point.
Yeah, Coastal Carolina let me down last week. Georgia Southern, I mean, gosh, we've seen them, like I said, but their offense doesn't seem as explosive as they did last year. Maybe they are. I don't know. I could be wrong. So I'll agree with you.
Wisconsin a scare for at least a half.
I'll agree with you. This will be like a come down to like a field goal at the end of the game.
All right. Anybody else No. All right. I just had some inside information on that one. How about Notre Dame? This is ranked versus ranked again. Notre Dame going to Durham to play the Dukies. Notre Dame favored by 5.5.
Yeah, I think this is a great chance for Duke to actually win this game outright. I mean, Notre Dame just completely blew that game last week against Ohio State.
I think it's a letdown game, huh?
I think it's a letdown game. I mean, how do you recover from that? Where you not only you had the game in hand until
it felt like they were the better team.
Got that interception, and you get down to the goal line, and then you have 10 guys in the field, and then your coach allegedly knew about it but didn't do anything. I mean, I know that he's got the excuse that, well, if you send somebody out, it's a penalty and you get 2 tries at it. Well, I'd rather have 2 tries with 11 guys in the field than 1 or 2 with 10. I mean, that's you only have to go a couple of yards. We see how that worked out for you, Notre Dame. But no, I mean, Duke's playing decent ball. They haven't played a lot of great teams since that opening week against Clemson. But they beat Clemson. They got the opportunistic turnovers, took advantage of it, won a game. And I think this is a great chance for Duke to really step up this year and make themselves known in the ACC as a real threat.
Before Mike Elko goes somewhere else.
Exactly.
All right, let's finish with this one. Maybe Sparty could be a destination for Mike Elko as early as next year. They're looking for a head coach. Michigan State going to Iowa City. Hawks getting 12.5. Boomer, you think this is 13-0?
Jeez. I mean, these last 2 weeks, Michigan State looks like they've already thrown in the towel on the season. Yes. I mean, they got crushed by Washington, which makes sense. Washington was good, and then Maryland really kind of took it to them this last week as well, too. I mean, that Maryland game, with Nebraska might be something we got to keep an eye on as a, possible concern later in the season. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. And Yeah, we just have to see how Iowa can scrape themselves off the little flat pancake Penn State crushed them into, and if they have more than a couple of plays that Brian Ferentz can break out, and maybe they can throw to a receiver here and there and catch Michigan State off guard. But
I mean, the drive chart last week was just extraordinary, wasn't it?
I what did they have? I think 7 punts Iowa did, and 6 of those were 3-and-out drives. I mean, that's incredible how that. And then the rest of the drives were turnovers. That's
33 plays.
Yeah, that's just insane in modern college football. I don't even know how that can be done, but they find a way to do it. So congrats, Iowa. So good work there. But
Talon, what do you think here?
Yeah, I mean, I think Iowa's actually going to cover. I think kind of like what Boomer's saying. I think Michigan State's definitely thrown in the towel. I think they've given up on the season. And I think this past game with Penn State, Iowa, I think it's more of how good Penn State looked. I mean, I think Penn State's a top 5 team in the country, and I think they have a very good shot at being Michigan, and I think they're a better team than Ohio State. So I just think, and Penn State's strength is their defense. I mean, they are fantastic. They know how to run the ball. They have a quarterback who doesn't turn it over. So I think it's more of a testament of how good Penn State is than really truly how bad Iowa is. And I think Iowa's going to roll against Michigan State.
I think that's a good point, Talon. I mean, I was watching this game with my neighbor, Iowa Sean, and I mean, he was obviously frustrated. And he was when it was 7-0, he's like, "This game's over. We're not going to score." He literally just knew it. He's like, "This is not going to happen." But he's also like, "I think we might be favored in all of our other games." And I'm like, "Well, maybe not Wisconsin, but yeah, you probably are, because like it's nothing going to be pretty, but you probably can score 14 to 17 on most teams somehow." And that might win you enough games with this defense. Rob, the over-under is 36.5. You taking that? You biting?
Yeah, I'll take the over. I mean,
taking the over.
I think so.
Really?
Yeah, 36.5. I'll take the over on it. I think Iowa. I mean, they come out and they play.
I don't think Sparty's going to score, man.
They come out and play for Brian, man. They got to get that ladder moving. So. Well, and what I was wondering, is there a prop bet out there on the over-under of number of passes that a wide receiver catches for Iowa? Because we
don't have player props here.
I put that around 5. If it was capable, maybe.
And that's ahead of what they've done all season, really.
I know. Yeah.
They're averaging 3.5 a game, Rob. So you're being
but they got called out this week, so he's got something to prove.
And we still have to design an offense to do it. So. Yeah. We'll see. I mean,
just play with.
We have no room to mock them. They've beaten us enough times, but
hey, we beat them last year. We're 1-0 right now.
Absurd.
1-0 right now.
That's right. That's right. All right. Any other games out there that I've missed? Anything else you guys been looking at?
How do you feel about the Alabama first half total there, Dave?
I'm off the Alabama first half wagon right now. Rob.
Are you right now? You know what? Yeah, they screwed you the last 2 weeks on that because
almost all year they just.
And I know that because they screwed me too because I was riding your bandwagon on that whole thing.
I've been off the wagon since week 1 pretty much because I just don't trust Milroe or anyone really to really do much with that offense right now.
Yeah, it's just interesting, right? It's so weird.
Yeah,
it's like all these 5-star recruits in Alabama looks like they're walking in mud. It's
quarterback really makes a difference.
Really does,
and they've produced multiple NFL first rounders and 3 in a row, right? And I just don't think they got one on the roster this year. So
the first half over under is 23.5 right now. That seems high based off of what they've been doing. Yeah,
I agree.
And I know we normally don't bet Husker games, but do you think the 18 points is too big of a spread? I mean, Michigan hasn't covered yet this year, I don't think.
So I'm taking the Huskers on that side of things. If I had to bet on it, if you put a gun to my head, because, like I said, I think that we'll do if we can control the ball. Like I said, if we can hold on to the ball, not turn it over, and sustain our drives. There's not with the new clock rules. There's not going to be enough time on the clock for Michigan to get more than like a 10, 14 point lead.
Yeah. I think it's 17.5 I'm seeing. So
yeah, I saw 18.5 earlier today, so it came down.
Slipping.
Yeah.
Yep.
People agree with me apparently.
Alan?
The only game that I saw that I'm interested in would probably be Kansas at Texas.
Ooh.
They get 16.
That's interesting.
I like Kansas's offense. I think Jalen Daniels is for real. He's proven it last year and coming into this year. The only thing that's really held him back was an injury last year. Otherwise, he's balled.
Sure.
So, I'm taking that for sure.
Yeah, I mean, Boomer, KU has been Texas's just bugaboo.
Bugbear. Personal bugbear is what you're looking for there, Dave.
You can say it different ways. I've heard
That's
this
true,
on the
yeah.
show.
I think
Correct
it's
me
was it TLC or Destiny's Child with the bugaboo? I don't know.
But
We'll go.
yeah, I
yes,
mean,
Rob,
KU's
don't
just
know.
giving Texas heck, right? I mean, all there is to it. Yeah, so I like that one, Talon. I like that. 16 and a half, you said?
Yeah, that's what I saw.
That's a good number too. You want to grab that now.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Anything else on the Betcast?
Nope, I'm good.
No.
All right, guys. Let's see if we can get out of here with some parting shots. And we will start with Boomer.
Well, I don't have a whole lot this week. The Michigan game's coming up, speaks for itself. But I just want to give a shout out. Everyone knows our love for special teams, and I just wanted to congratulate our number 3 leading rusher from the last game against Louisiana Tech, Timmy Bleekrode, with a really nice fake field goal there, which set up that first touchdown, which is great. I mean, if we might have to do some more trickeration like that. We've done it.
You also
a
had a
games
great
this year to score touchdowns, so whatever it takes, I think this year, just like option ball. So keep those.
He had a
things in
great
mind.
tweet too, didn't he, Boomer? Where
He did, yeah.
I was
hoping
hoping
Honky
Honky
to drill.
share that.
Doing the
Yeah.
tire drill. Yep.
I wanted Honky to
stuff.
share that tweet with his tweets of the week this week, and he didn't share it. That was kind of
He
sad about
deserved it. That was a really good
He
one.
did. It was good.
was.
Yep.
All right, Rob.
I just want to give a shout out to all of our Redcast followers on Twitter who responded to, sometimes it's a little bit embarrassing because, how I've been out to Lincoln a bunch of times now, and I've never actually gone out the night before a game in Lincoln, but I'm making this trip. It's kind of a special trip. I'm going out with a couple of my buddies here in Greeley. And so it's not just a Redcast trip. And I kind of reached out to say, okay, what should I be doing on Friday night before the game? And I had so many suggestions. I will not be going to the Barstool event. Sorry, I'm just not going to do that. I've got better things to do in Lincoln to experience Lincoln. We're going to try and check out Misty's if we can get a table there, or even just to see one of the bands. I think we're going to try to hit up at least 1 or 2 of the speakeasies, and the ones that we don't hit up, we'll try and do it after the game on Saturday because we'll still be in town. And just want to thank everyone for the kind suggestions and the nice words. I even got offered some 311 tickets in Omaha. Unfortunately, it's breaking my heart, and I wore my 311 shirt
this
since
weekend?
88. They're playing Friday night in Omaha in La Vista at the new I think it's called the Starlight Amphitheater. But yeah, so I've got my Since 88 shirt on. That's my 311 shirt that my sister made for me, and
Nice.
on the back, it's got the Omaha styling on. Yeah, you can't hear. I'll turn around.
That's all right. This is great podcasting, Rob.
Omaha styling on the back, so 311. But yeah, I'm kind of bummed, but you know what? I'm already got my hotel booked in Vegas for March for 311 days, so we're good.
Nice. All right. Well, it's a good segue. We can welcome Talon again one more time. Talon, I think you're since 2002. When were you born? What year?
2002.
There you go. All right. So
I have a son older than you.
Well, we needed to add some youth. We're probably going into our silver years of podcasting. Wanted to get some youth here. Talon is going to UNL, so we actually kind of get the campus experience there, and hopefully you'll be doing more shows with us here in the future. But here's your very first non-fan forum opportunity to do a parting shot. Fire away. Perfect.
So I guess I like what you guys are talking about with the ball control. If we can control the clock, I think if we can convert third downs too, would be a big thing for us against Michigan. We were 3 for 12 last week. If we can stay on the field, I don't necessarily like how much we've been throwing the ball the last 2 weeks. I think what you guys have been saying with the option, I think is perfect. Run the ball, get it to Grant, let Harburg do his thing. I heard Joshua Fleeks is going to be turning into a running back, so it'd be interesting to see what he can do. But yeah, I think if we can control the clock and convert some third downs, I think we'll be in this game up until third or fourth quarter and see what we can do on defense, getting JJ. So
I like it.
Hey, and keep your phone turned on Friday too, Talon, and I'll hit you up and buy you a drink in town when we get in. So
Yeah,
Run, Talon, run as fast as you can.
I'm staying in Lincoln, and I owe you a drink. I didn't really hang out after the Colorado game for very long, and so I'd love to buy you a drink, just hang out and talk, and we maybe can make a couple TikToks or whatever. Plus, I've got a game plan for after we win, so I'm gonna need you.
Perfect. I love it. Let's do it.
Yeah.
All right, drinks are on Rob. That sounds
That's right.
awesome.
Hey man, seriously, I save up for these. So yeah, you know what? Come join me. I'd be happy to pick up the tab.
Yeah,
awesome.
I would love to.
All right, guys. Great show. Had a good time. I think Honky had a good time. I think he's had a good time taking the last half hour off.
He went to bed already.
I would have too with how much he podcasts.
No kidding, man. He's the hardest working man in podcasting. All right, guys. For now, let's call that a Go Big Redcast.
Go Big Red.
A Herd at Sports Network production.